Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on storytelling. This is Carla.
Hello.
And I'm Nicole. And today we are going to talk about storytelling and marketing strategies. Together, we have over 25 years of combined experience in digital marketing and online strategies.
So we want to say that we're very excited that you're here today for you to share in our knowledge base so that you become more successful in your marketing strategies in this coming year. So we're very excited. We will be offering more and more of our webinars for you so that you can learn as much information as you possibly can for your business. So we want to start with, what is storytelling?
Let's dive right in. So, storytelling. I'm sure all of you have heard the word storytelling, and it's a buzzword that's been going around for a while. Carla, what is storytelling?
So storytelling is the buzzword for social media. It's basically the new word that people are using to replace social media as storytelling. And some people have very good ways of crafting that information over to their potential clients, and some still have some real issues on translating your story over to your potential business. So to me, storytelling is such a great way for people to connect with your audience and be able to do that.
So, of course, the definition of storytelling itself is a narrative that is communicating to your audience. In this webinar, we're going to go over the ins and outs and give you a couple pointers on how to create an effective marketing storytelling strategy. I'm really good with social media storytelling, and Carla is really good with creating the strategy. So together, we can give you a couple pointers on how to have a successful marketing plan.
So one of the things I think is very important is really understanding like brand retention. If you've not heard that word before, it's very important to build that connection between you and a potential client. One of the things that you really understand is that words only probably gives you about a 10% return in value versus words with photos that give you about 65% in brand retention, which means that people will remember you when you combine both those aspects in your social media. So that's really important to understand that in your actual program when you're putting out your marketing for that. So one of the things that you need to do is know the different types of examples of storytelling. And what is some of those, Nicole?
Different type of examples of storytelling could be inspirational messages,
which is my favorite.
Yes, it is. I love them too. Also, just announcements, great milestones and achievements, introducing a new team member. Those are great stories, and I love hearing about
testimonials. I think is really relatable because you're using that as an aspect of using your customers to relate what your products and services do for them. So using testimonials, really translating that over into your social media or your storytelling, it really kind of gives an aspect of what's going on behind the business when it comes to your social media. So really understand that. And also you are needing to read relatable conflict, drama, situations that come up that people can relate to. Share those stories. So let's say that you want to create a problem. A client needs it's got a problem, but you need to relate that back over to a solution. You can do that with storytelling.
Exactly.
So do that and understand that that is what storytelling really is and how to relate that back over to your marketing. So we'll go to the next slide, which is talking about why is storytelling and why does storytelling work?
So it creates an experience. With compelling stories, you can create connections with people. You can communicate authentic human experiences. And of course, your customers or potential customers can experience a new perspective on your company.
And so one of the things is really, really important is to really know your audience. Get to know who the people you're trying to talk to. Remember that Facebook is not a source of connecting with people that you already know. It's really reaching past that and getting to people that don't know about your products and services. Really kind of connecting with them and understanding them. I think so important is that you can't just assume people already know you. So know your audience. One of the things that's really important to understand is that the social media is definitely more in the percentage of a female base versus a male base, depending on the products and services that you're offering. So really understand that audience and who you're talking to, whether it's, a younger generation versus your older generation, and knowing what social media works for you when it comes to telling your stories. So understanding that. And then the second thing that you need to do is what?
To share different experiences of defining, you have to define your core message, which is really important. If you know your customer, now you have to talk to them, right? But don't have a general message that appeals to everybody, because you don't want to waste your marketing efforts. Why are core messages so important, Carla?
Because remember that people have very short attention spans. They're probably 9 seconds compared to back in 2012, which was much longer, because the amount of information that is out on the search engines now, or in social media, and the feeds that are in social media go out so fast that sometimes those attention spans. So your core message has to be quick and very simple for people to understand. So being able to understand that and develop your storytelling, which means the different kinds of storytelling, which can be videos, different kinds of videos, and also types of company information, announcements, and milestones. Relatable content is what storytelling is all about.
Yes, the whole point of really storytelling is to connect with your customers, potential clients. You want a quote unquote hashtag same type of experience. So it's like, me too. So I can reshare the content. I can comment on it and tag my friend because it's an inside joke or something. You want that because they're basically your customers, your followers are doing the work for you.
Yeah. So that leads us to the next slide, which is how do you craft a storytelling marketing strategy? This is really important. Some of you may need to step back and see what's working for you and what's not working for you. So one of the things is really understanding and creating a trust value, so that you're building that trust between you and a potential customer. And how do you tell that story over to them so that they're willing to buy your products and services? It's basically sliding in some information about who you are and about the products you're doing it without really doing it in front of them. Because look, promos or products and services, there should be only 20% of your social media versus your storytelling or what the other types of things that you're connecting with your potential clients should be. So understanding that is really important.
So next also is using visuals to convey importance. Carla had already mentioned before that visuals and words can retain more interaction, and your customers can remember that content better than with just words. So I know for visuals, it's great to put a really relatable quote on a very beautiful graphic in the background. What about your other favorites?
Well, I think the other thing that I'd be kind of on top of that, I think is important, is to really rely your information over that is trustworthy when it comes to that, which means that you have to connect with your potential clients. And I think that we get bombarded with so much information these days. Newsletters, emails, websites, and sometimes we happen to forget that we have 55% users that are on your website in less than 15 seconds. So you really have to convert that. And I think that's important.
Exactly. And of course, going back to the fact that we have the trust value and we use the visuals to convey the importance, after all the steps of how to do a storytelling marketing strategy, we have to look at the numbers. Why are numbers important?
Return on investment. So from day one, when we started out in social media, before social media, websites was so important because we were trying to establish a customer products and services. So nowadays we have the means of social media and relating that back over to the website. So the most important aspect is really being able to track your social media insights. If you really don't look at that information on what works and what doesn't work, how do you know your messages are working? So really taking that, comparing to your data analytics, whether it's Google Analytics or some type of analytic program that you're reviewing. If you're not doing that, that's so important, because you got to know what works. You got to know what customers are coming to your website. You got to know how you're converting. And so you can do all the storytelling that you want. You can plan, you could create, but if you don't really understand what's going on, you can't really understand your storytelling and what works and what doesn't. Some people may want videos. Some people might just want visuals with imagery. So you really need to know what your audience is looking for. And I think the way to do that is
test it out.
In testing. Test. I think that's so important. People they go straight through, go straight and don't turn left or right, and you got to really understand what works for you and what doesn't. And so that's really important as returning value.
But also just keep in mind that these reports, these insights, everyone on the internet wants you to have access to the information, because the better you do online, the better they do as well. So with Facebook, there are great insights. Google, they have a lot of reports as well. And these are all really free, great resources for you to use to make sure that your marketing strategy is actually working.
I think that's so important, because you really need to know who you're talking to.
Yes.
Because you could be talking to so many different people, and you're not really getting your message out there to the right people. And when you're putting all this much time and effort into your marketing and creating this storytelling, what is, what's working and what's not, if you're not really looking at that, that's really just a loss of time and management on your part. So it's so, those values of that information really, really is important for you to really understand what's going on with your business. For you to continue to grow, you've got to understand what's going on with your business. And so we can use the word storytelling, but all of it translates back over to return on investment.
Right.
And creating a great, what we call a CTA. CTAs, if you're not really sure what that means, that's called call to action. If you don't put it in there out in your social media, in your storytelling, how are people going to know how to contact you? How do they know what website that you're going to? How do they know how to send you a message to ask you how your products and services can be sold? So the whole point is, even though you put the message out there, the CTA or call to action has to be really in their face. People are very robotic, and you have to tell them what to do. So you get the emotional connection.
Yes.
Right.
Hook onto them.
So important. The emotional connections is so important.
Yes.
But getting them to the website and return of investment is so important.
Your CTA.
Exactly.
Very important.
So these three things are very important, which is trust value and visuals and return of investment. So if you have problems with a lot of that, you can call us or email us with questions, and we'll help you and guide you in getting you to where you need to be in your social media.
But just a recap of the strategy in itself, let's just go over that again. So 1, know your audience. Don't talk to everyone. Find your audience. That's specifics. We're talking hobbies. We're talking occupation. We're talking education level. Find out who that is and name your, what's the word? Avatar.
Yes. Apparently it's new. They just use different words, but it's all the same.
Yes.
I've been in the industry for over 18 years. It's the same method. Keep it simple. And they use these different terms to confuse you to think it's something new, but it's basically the same thing. They just use a different term to do that.
It's copying genius.
Yes.
Just putting a different package.
Yes. It's just really defining who you are.
Yes. So 1 is know your audience. 2, define your core message. Well, there is a point to this message. There's a point to the storytelling. Make sure that it is very clear. And of course, decide what kind of story you're telling. You can do visuals, you can do videos, you can do inspirational quotes. Switch it up. Carla loves switching it up, and she has instilled that in our team. And honestly, it has proved wonders, because from a blog article to an informative graphic or to an announcement video, you're switching it up, but you're still telling the same story, right? But I never get bored, and neither do the followers.
So one of the things that we always talk about is understanding what your primary services are versus your secondary services. And this is really important. I know that we're throwing a lot of this information out there to you all at one time, but you have to have a real strategy. You can't just go off the cuff and go, I'm just going to throw something out today. You really have to sit down and plan your action. You have to know when your audience is online. You need to know when you can recycle content. Recycling content is a very valuable resource. I can't talk today. But it's a very valuable resource. So because people may not have seen it, or they just missed it, or it just didn't get caught in the feed good, and the impressions and organic numbers don't look as high as they should. So this is really important to understand what that value is.
Right.
So we're going to end our presentation on this part. And I'm sorry, I messed up. I'm getting ahead of myself. So one of the things we want to talk about is the examples of storytelling. So these are great visuals. And why are these really good visuals, Nicole?
I love all three of them because they all give me a different message. But actually, they tell different stories to me and to Carla. So my personal favorite is probably the Target ad on the right-hand side with the teacher just celebrating discount off of school back to school products.
Mm-hmm.
It tells me that, hey, Target's speaking to the customers, and as somebody who supports education and teachers, I love it. And that reaction is very relatable.
And it's exciting for me because I know when my kids go back to school, I'm excited. So I'm just saying, but my favorite is the Airbnb. They are very famous on really creating an emotional connection.
Yes.
This speaks volumes for me because one day I am going to get me a she shed. So I can visually see myself sitting on that porch, and the message is very clear on what exactly they're trying to sell.
Exactly.
So I think that's one of my favorites. And then the middle one with the little girl, and as far as saving money, I know that I wish I would have known some financial advice back when I was younger versus today. Things could be different, but I do think that these are very great ways and examples of creating different kinds of messages that really translate back over to me as a person of a buyer persona.
Right. And for me, the middle one has a really great quote on it. Take care of your pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. As a young woman who will eventually start a family, that makes me want to think about financial security and the success of my future family. So although they're different conflict resolution messages, I still love it because it's still selling the same message.
Yes, I think
we
so.
need it. You have a problem and we're your solution.
So these are great ways of looking at how this translates over to the product and services that they are selling. And without really writing an entire log of content. So it's quick, simple. There's some CTA in it. As you can see, there's a website or a phone number attached to it. So it lets the buyer that you're trying to connect with be able to connect with the particular business to close a sale. The whole point is really emotional connection. It has never changed. Social media is all about emotional connection anyways. Converting them over to the website, that's the whole thing. That's where I insert myself in when I tell my clients, this is where the end result is to close the deal. Right. So to me personally, imagery is so important. There are plenty of websites out there that have free imagery. There's programs out there that have that. And look, this is the whole hint of all of it. Treat it like you would as you're shopping. If you see something that another company is doing, take that idea and translate it back over to your business. See how you're shopping versus how you are presenting yourself in your business. So just know that.
There's no hurt in testing it out. You want to test theories, and when you want to try trial and error to see what works and what doesn't.
Right. So these are great examples. And so we are going to end my slide. This is the correct slide now. So for those that don't know us and want to have a question about who we are and what we do, this is some information for you to do that. We're going to, for those that signed up for the webinar, I did send you a link to download a PDF, and I will share that with you and we'll go over it real quick. And that is the storytelling goal sheet. So we like to end our webinars with some fun activity because it's a great way to connect with you and start getting you to think about what storytelling is. So please get your planners out, get your calendar out, and start planning your storytelling.
Yes.
AKA social media. So number one, what is number one?
Storytelling is not about your brand.
Yes. Right. So the people get confused on brand versus storytelling. Yes. Brand to me is personally about your logo, website. And I know a lot of people say that is not what it is versus what it is. It is brand is identification of who you are and what you represent. So for me, storytelling is so important when you're conveying your message, but it's not about your brand.
It's what's behind the brand.
Exactly. Right. We're behind the brand.
So number two.
And so number two is, what does my ideal client actually want and need?
Yes. So this goes back to know who your audience is.
Avatar.
Yes. So make sure you know you're talking to the right person. We are not in the business of wasting your marketing efforts.
Or you can use the word buyer persona. You know, all these fancy
Synonyms.
words. It's basically the same thing. It's clients.
Buzzwords.
So understand who your ideal client is. It's so important. Write that out if you've not done that, or just so that you're connecting with your potential client. And number 3.
And how can I help solve their problem? They have an issue. They're already coming to you with their problem, so they know that you have the solution. But how are you providing the solution? How do you get them to choose you over your competitors?
So one of the things that you really, really can remember is that you are the hero in the story.
Yes.
And that is something that StoryBrand actually teaches you if you've not looked at that before, which is Donald Miller, by the way. It's some of you that didn't come in. StoryBrand actually teaches you to become the hero of the story. So a person comes in, they have a problem, you have to give them a solution. So this is really important. Become the hero of the story.
And number 4, decide what kind of story are you telling? So basically, what's the message here? What's the core message? You have a goal, and you want to make sure that your customer knows what that core message is. So don't lose track of that.
And I think that's so important, is really understanding, relating to your potential client. And you can put the shock and awe and value in there, but really, you've got to really tell them what it is that you're trying to get them over in relatable content. And it has to be relatable and an emotional connection, getting them to, sell, for them to convert over to a real sell. I think that's really important. And number 5 is my favorite.
Is your
return on investment.
Yes.
I have to say that that's so important, and I think it misses the mark. A lot of people do not track that, and I think that is so important. A lot of times clients come to me and the first thing they'll say is, I need a social media presence, when I think, no, you need an online presence. There's a difference in between the two that go hand in hand. What you do in social media, what you do on your website, all has to merge together and work together. It always has to be that way. You can tell all the stories you want to.
Yes.
You can brag about your company. You can tell about your products and services. But if it doesn't convert, you definitely are missing the mark. So really understanding your return on investment. If you don't know how to read your data analytics, hit me up. I can tell you how to do that. Even if it's just some basic concepts, really understanding what people are really doing on your website. And if it's not converting and you don't have traffic, then you really do have some real issues that we need to talk about. So I think the last part, so we've got about 5 or 10 minutes left.
So storytelling is about your customers. Storytelling is emotional, and it increases engagement. Storytelling is an interaction between you and your customers. But
it is not about your sales goals. It is not about advertisement, and it is not about your sales pitch. If you want to reach past that, then put some money into advertisement, because you want to grab and build that fan feed to your Facebook or any of the other social medias that you're trying to connect with. Build that fan feed so that your impression numbers and organic numbers go up higher, versus just sales pitching them all the time. So this is the end of our webinar. We do have some upcoming stuff I want to share with you. So for those that might want to come in and actually get involved with our social media, we do have a couple webinars coming up. We have the Lunch and Learn, which is at Passion HR. This is called the SWOT analysis. It's SWOT. That's SWOT. If you're not familiar with that, that is something that we can use for marketing and for any other aspect of your business. And number 2, we have a Pinterest workshop. This is not free. This is a paid. And I'm going to show you how to get into Pinterest, because I think Pinterest is going to overtake Instagram.
Big news.
So I think you need to learn some real techniques. Any business, if you really have a really great strategy, you can learn some Pinterest techniques. And we do have a webinar coming up in February. It is free, just like this one, and is powerful marketing strategies for 2020. So really stay tuned, because 2020 is going to be your year. And to do that, you need to get onto these webinars. We'll have them once a month. This is something that it's free. It's just informative information, so that we're continuing to build that relationship between you and a potential client. So thank you for coming out. If you've got any questions, you have our information, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.